In every age, people have asked themselves why the worst often climb the highest. Why do the corrupt, the ruthless, the liars, the manipulators, the ones with no conscience, so often end up in positions of power? Why does society seem to reward them, while the kind, the honest, and the gentle so often remain unnoticed? This is not just a question of our time. It is a question that has haunted humanity for centuries. The Italian thinker Niccolò Machiavelli saw it clearly in the 16th century, and his work still explains the patterns we see today. He wrote in The Prince, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." That single line is not just advice to rulers of his time. It is an insight into human behavior, into the way people in groups respond to authority, and into why the psychopath, the evil, and the corrupt so often rise to the top. Think about it. Every system we have, politics, business, religion, entertainment, even small communities, has leaders. And those leaders are not always the most intelligent, or the most capable, or the most moral. They are often the ones willing to cross lines that others won't. They are willing to lie when honesty would hurt them. They are willing to betray when loyalty is inconvenient. They are willing to harm when kindness would make them seem weak. And because they are willing to do these things, they gain an advantage over those who restrain themselves. Machiavelli observed this cold reality. The ends justify the means. Those 5 words have echoed across history, used by both tyrants and reformers, but most often by those who are willing to discard morality in pursuit of victory. When we look at modern society, we see the same pattern. A CEO cuts corners, exploits workers, manipulates markets, and becomes celebrated as a visionary leader. A politician lies with a straight face, spins scandals into victories, and secures re-election. A celebrity manufactures drama, betrays friends, exploits fans, and is rewarded with more fame. Again and again, those who rise are not necessarily the best, but the boldest. And often, the boldest are also the most ruthless. Machiavelli never glorified this, but he acknowledged it. He said plainly, "Men are so simple, and so much creatures of circumstance, that the deceiver will always find someone ready to be deceived." This is the essence of why the corrupt rise. Most people are too trusting. They want to believe in goodness. They want to believe that others are like them, honest, decent, sincere. But the psychopath, the evil, and the corrupt exploit this. They know that kindness can be taken advantage of. They know that trust can be manipulated. They know that appearing virtuous is often more valuable than being virtuous. And so, they play the role. They wear the mask. They charm, they smile, they promise, and behind the curtain, they plot and scheme. Society makes it easier for them too, because society rewards results, not methods. We admire success, wealth, fame, power. Rarely do we question how it was obtained. We see the billionaire and envy his fortune, without asking how many lives were crushed along the way. We see the politician in high office and celebrate his influence, without asking how many lies paved the road there. We see the celebrity adored by millions and crave their lifestyle, without asking what betrayals were committed to reach that stage. This blindness is what Machiavelli understood so well. He observed that appearances often matter more than reality. As he said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." This simple truth explains why evil men can be worshipped like heroes and why the corrupt can be celebrated as leaders. Because most people see only the surface. They see the image, the performance, the illusion. They do not look deeper, or if they do not want to believe the darker reality. And so, the psychopath plays his role like an actor on a stage while society applauds. Now let's slow down and really think about what kind of person rises in this system. The psychopath, by definition, lacks empathy. He does not feel guilt for harming others. He does not hesitate to exploit, manipulate, or deceive. Where normal people would stop and feel conflicted, he feels nothing. That absence of conscience becomes his strength in a world that rewards bold moves and punishes hesitation. He can make the ruthless decision that others cannot. He can betray today and smile tomorrow. He can speak lies with conviction, and because people want to believe, they believe him. Machiavelli saw this when he wrote, "A prince never lacks legitimate reasons to break his promise." The corrupt, too, thrive in this environment. Corruption is not just about money changing hands. It is about bending rules, twisting systems, exploiting loopholes, and controlling narratives. A corrupt leader does not need to be intelligent in the traditional sense. He only needs to understand human weakness, greed, fear, desire. By feeding these weaknesses, he gains allies, buys loyalty, silences critics. The system becomes his playground, and society, blinded by results, allows it. Evil, in this context, is not some supernatural force. It is simply the willingness to cause harm without remorse. The evil man can destroy reputations, ruin families, exploit communities, and yet sleep soundly at night. Where a good person would hesitate, he strikes. Where a kind person would forgive, he eliminates. And because society rewards those who appear strong, decisive, commanding, the evil man is often mistaken for a leader. He projects power, and people, craving security, follow. Consider history. Time and again, those who rose to the top were not saints. They were often cunning manipulators. Kings who murdered rivals, generals who betrayed allies, businessmen who crushed competitors, politicians who lied endlessly. And yet, they were celebrated, even admired, because they won. Society has always had a bias toward winners, regardless of the cost. And the psychopath, the evil, and the corrupt are often the ones most willing to pay that cost, not with their own lives, but with the lives of others. This is the uncomfortable truth that Machiavelli forced people to confront. He stripped away illusions about morality and power. He did not say that rulers should be cruel, but he said they must be prepared to be cruel, because the world does not reward pure virtue. He understood that in politics, in leadership, in human affairs, morality is often a disadvantage. Those who cling to it too tightly are devoured by those who do not. As he warned, the man who wishes to act entirely up to his professions of virtue soon meets with what destroys him among so much that is evil. Think about that for a moment. A person who tries to live with complete virtue in a world filled with corruption will often be destroyed, and history proves him right. Idealists are often crushed. Reformers are often assassinated. Honest men are often betrayed. Meanwhile, the cunning, the ruthless, the corrupt continue to rise. This pattern is not just historical. It is alive today in our politics, our corporations, our media. We see leaders who manipulate emotions, exploit divisions, spread lies, and yet gain massive followings. We see businessmen who exploit workers, dodge taxes, manipulate laws, and yet are celebrated as self-made. We see celebrities who thrive on scandal, betrayal, and cruelty, and yet become role models. Why? Because the world does not judge by moral worth. It judges by appearance, success, and strength. And those who are evil, corrupt, or psychopathic often understand this game better than anyone. Society itself plays a role in sustaining this cycle. People admire strength, even when it is abusive. They admire confidence, even when it is built on lies. They admire wealth, even when it is stolen. Deep down, many people would rather follow a strong liar than a weak truth teller. And so, the corrupt rise not just because they are ruthless, but because society allows them to, even cheers them on. Machiavelli was clear about this. He wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can feel." Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few feel what you are. That insight explains so much of what we see around us. The appearance of strength, the performance of virtue, the mask of confidence, these are enough to win the crowd. And once the crowd is won, power follows. The reality, the hidden corruption, the secret cruelty remains invisible to most. When we look at the history of power, one thing becomes very clear. The people who rise to the top are not always the ones with the purest hearts or the best intentions. Many times, it is those who understand manipulation, fear, and human weakness who end up holding the keys to society. This is something Niccolò Machiavelli pointed out centuries ago. He wrote that rulers should not focus only on being loved because love is fragile. Instead, it is safer to be feared because fear holds people more tightly than affection. And when you examine the world today, you can see that this principle still operates. The people who rise are often the ones who do not hesitate to instill fear, control, and dominance over others. They may not openly show cruelty, but the structures they build are rooted in intimidation and manipulation. One of the reasons psychopaths and the corrupt rise so high is because society often rewards appearances rather than substance. A person who speaks confidently, dresses well, and gives off the air of certainty will often be trusted more than someone who is quietly competent but humble. This opens the door for manipulative personalities. They can mask their true nature with charm, persuasion, and a carefully designed image. While a genuine and moral person may hesitate to boast or deceive, the corrupt individual has no such restraint. They will say whatever they must in order to gain influence. They will shake hands, make promises, and smile warmly, even while plotting betrayal. And society, blinded by appearances, too often accepts these masks as reality. Another factor is the structure of organizations themselves. Whether in politics, business, or even smaller institutions, climbing to the top often requires not only hard work, but also the ability to outmaneuver others. Think of the corporate ladder. Those who succeed are not always the most innovative, nor the kindest. They are often those who know how to undermine competition, exploit weaknesses, and place themselves in positions where others cannot challenge them. Corruption thrives in these systems because it feeds on ambition without moral restraint. If two people want the same position, the one who is willing to lie, sabotage, or cut ethical corners will often have the advantage. And if they win, their behavior is validated. This reinforces the cycle. Corruption leads to power, and power protects corruption. Machiavelli observed that rulers should not shy away from deceit. He believed that appearances of virtue matter more than actual virtue. A leader should look merciful, faithful, and kind, but when necessary, they must be ready to act with cruelty, deception, or force. This is why those who lack empathy, who can lie without guilt and harm without remorse, are so effective in leadership roles. They can do what others hesitate to do. They can make decisions that cause suffering while maintaining an outward image of responsibility. In today's world, we often see leaders who speak about justice, equality, or progress, while behind the scenes they engage in corruption, manipulation, and exploitation. And yet, they continue to rise because society rewards the image, not the reality. Psychopaths have a unique advantage in this. Their lack of guilt or remorse allows them to take risks and make moves that others would find unthinkable. A normal person might feel the weight of betraying a colleague, lying to the public, or exploiting the vulnerable. A psychopath feels no such burden. To them, people are pieces on a chessboard to be moved and sacrificed as needed. Their focus is entirely on the outcome: power, dominance, survival at the top. And because they do not suffer from the same inner conflicts that restrain ordinary people, they can act decisively, even ruthlessly. This decisiveness, ironically, is often mistaken for strong leadership. People admire boldness, not realizing that the boldness they see is fueled by the absence of conscience. Corruption complements this by providing the tools to maintain control once power is achieved. Money, influence, and favors create networks that protect those at the top. A corrupt leader can shield themselves from consequences by ensuring that others around them are complicit. They hand out rewards, promotions, and privileges in exchange for loyalty. They create systems where everyone close to them benefits from the corruption, so that no one has the incentive to expose it. And if someone dares to challenge them, that person risks losing everything. In this way, corruption becomes a fortress. The more corrupt the structure, the stronger its ability to protect those inside it. We also have to understand society's complicity in all of this. Many people prefer the stability of strong authority, even if it is corrupt, over the chaos of uncertainty. They would rather follow a leader who provides order, even if that order comes through fear and manipulation, than risk instability. This is why Machiavelli's ideas remain so relevant. He pointed out that people are often more concerned with their own safety and comfort than with abstract ideas of justice or morality. If a corrupt ruler keeps food on the table, jobs available, and enemies at bay, the masses will tolerate or even support that corruption. In this way, society itself becomes the enabler of the corrupt and the psychopathic. History provides endless examples of this. Dictators who ruled with terror often rose from seemingly ordinary beginnings, using charm, manipulation, and ruthless tactics to seize control. Corrupt business leaders have built empires not by following rules, but by breaking them strategically, covering their tracks, and silencing opposition. And in our own time, we see countless leaders who, despite scandals, lies, and abuses of power, continue to climb or maintain their positions. The reason is not only their personal ruthlessness, but also the structures that reward and protect them. Systems are designed in ways that value loyalty to power more than honesty. As long as this continues, the rise of the psychopath and the corrupt is not an exception, but an expectation. Machiavelli understood the darker side of human nature. He did not believe that people were naturally virtuous. Instead, he believed they were self-interested, driven by fear and desire. This is why he advised rulers to use these instincts to their advantage, to manipulate fear, to direct desire, to control perception. In today's society, those who rise often use the same tools. They control narratives through media, they shape desires through advertising and persuasion, and they instill fear by warning of dangers only they can protect against. The more skilled they are at controlling these instincts, the higher they climb. But there is something important to reflect on here. While Machiavelli described the way power works, he also left us with a warning. When society allows power to be concentrated in the hands of the corrupt, it pays the price in the long run. Fear and manipulation may keep control for a time, but they also breed resentment, distrust, and instability. A society ruled by psychopaths and corruption may appear strong on the surface, but underneath, it is fragile. It rots from within, and eventually, that corruption leads to collapse. Empires have fallen not because of outside enemies, but because corruption hollowed them out until they could no longer stand. This pattern repeats throughout history. And when we look around at our world today, it is worth asking whether the same forces are at play again. In the end, the rise of the psychopath and the corrupt is not a mystery. It is the outcome of a world that rewards manipulation, appearance, and ruthlessness more than honesty, humility, and virtue. It is the result of systems that value loyalty to power more than loyalty to truth. And it is the reflection of human nature itself. which too often prefers comfort under corrupt authority rather than the uncertainty of challenging it. As Machiavelli might say, the world has not changed. The players are different, but the game remains the same. Power is not given to the kind, the pure, or the gentle. It is seized by those willing to take it, no matter the cost. And that is why the psychopath, the evil, and the corrupt rise to the top.